This is Dante Williams, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I always find it almost comical when I hear people say, oh, you're biased towards Floyd Mayweather. You're biased and so on and so forth, right? This is the difference between me and you. And when I say you, of course, I'm talking to the decafs. The difference is I can separate my emotions from common sense. In other words, I can separate emotions from talking boxing. All right? The majority of people cannot do this. The majority of people, they allow their emotions, their heart to cloud their vision. And then they start speaking from their heart as opposed to speaking with their brain, right? Like this Filipino fan that I randomly interviewed. You guys probably seen the video. This guy, he says, listen, when it comes to Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, my heart as a Filipino is rooting for Manny Pacquiao and says he's going to win. But my brain tells me Floyd Mayweather is going to win. He starts talking about breaking down Floyd Mayweather's attributes, his defense, his skill, so on and so forth, right? That guy was able to separate emotions from common sense, right? So if you ask me the question, Dante, are you biased towards Floyd Mayweather? I'll answer that question with a question. I want to ask every single race and nationality on a planet this question. From the Mexicans to the Filipinos, to the Argentine fans, the Ukrainians, Ethiopians, Nigerians, the Japanese, the Chinese, and so on and so forth, right? I ask you this question. Let's say boxing is your favorite sport. Matter of fact, that's the only sport you watch. You love the sport of boxing, right? And all of a sudden, coincidentally, the best fighter in the world, the best fighter of this era, happens to come from the same country you come from. Happens to be the same race, same color, grew up just like you did, listening to the same type music, eating the same type of foods, and so on and so forth, right? Are you gonna honestly tell me you wouldn't be biased towards this guy, towards this fighter? Of course you would be, and you are, right? I mean, how many times have we seen grown-ass men with their shirt off at a fight that's spelling Canelo all the way across their chest? How many times have we seen stuff like that, right? Robert Garcia, he does an interview where the reporter asks him, you know, can you break down the fight? Who do you think would win between Canelo Alvarez and Erislandy Lara? Now, keep in mind, the reporter didn't say, who are you rooting for? Who do you like the most? He just said, who do you think is going to win the fight? And Robert Garcia responded by saying, look, us Mexicans have to stick together, right? And then he proceeded to basically say, I think Canelo is going to win. He talked about Erislandy Lara being one of the greatest Cuban fighters of all time, so on and so forth. Now, if you read between the lines, it really sounded like he was saying he thought deep down that Lara had a good chance of beating Canelo, but once he said us Mexicans have to stick together, he made it very clear that no matter who he thought was going to win, he was going to tell you that Canelo was going to win, right? And keep in mind, I've said this before and I'll say it again, there is nothing wrong with Robert Garcia saying that. If Robert Garcia wants to ride with his own countryman, you know, just because they're from the same country, more power to him. I have no problem with that. When I interviewed the Filipino fan, and remember, like I said earlier, he said, my heart is with Manny Pacquiao, but I believe that Floyd Mayweather is going to win. You read the comments, you got Filipino fans calling this man a sellout. That guy is a sellout, so on and so forth. You had other fans that were saying, he ain't no damn Filipino. That guy is Vietnamese. He can't be Filipino, right? So what are they really trying to say? It's obvious, isn't it? They're saying that you're supposed to be biased towards your race by default. That's what they're saying, right? That is what they're saying. So the question is, why is it okay for fans to openly be biased towards their own race and nobody says anything bad about them? I mean, when I say bad, I mean no one's saying you suck at Manny Pacquiao's dick, you know, you fucking bastard. I hate you because you like your own countrymen and all of this shit. Nobody's saying shit like that, right? I mean, we hear fans admit that they're being biased towards their own people all the time. But when it comes to Black American fans, you can't even say something positive about Floyd Mayweather. It's as if that is against the law when it comes to boxing, right? Now, a Black American fan, he doesn't even have to say he's a Floyd Mayweather fan. He could just say something true about Floyd Mayweather, something that is positive and makes sense about Floyd Mayweather. And these same fans who call their people sellouts when they don't root for their own people, they'll turn around and say, oh, you just said that because you're black. You just said that because you're black and this and that. Then they start talking about all this extreme gay shit. You know, you're sucking Floyd's dick and all this kind of other stuff, right? Now, one of the very rare channels that I consistently watch is Dwyer's channel, right? And even Dwyer has talked about fans accusing him of being biased towards black people. You're just saying that because you're black, so on and so forth. Now, if you watch Dwyer's channel, not only does he have one of the best channels, most analytical, channels there are out today when it comes to boxing forums, but he is probably the least biased person there is when it comes to boxing talk. But yet they will still say, oh, you just said that because you're black. But yet other boxing fans, they have the privilege of running up and down the aisles at a live boxing event, waving their flag throughout the damn arena. Like I said, Floyd Mayweather, being a black American, being the best fighter in the entire sport, he's the best fighter of this era, and yet a black fan can't even say, I like the guy, without being bombarded with all type of fucking hate, right? And the hate goes beyond just gay talk. They get into racist shit. And once again, man, it's not everyone who posts all these racist messages. It is a particular demographic who posts these racist messages. But the point is, a black person cannot like a black fighter who happens to be the best fighter of this era. But Robert Garcia, he can openly tell you, listen, man, us Mexicans, we got to stick together, right? Leo Santa Cruz, he can tell you that if I lose my title, I hope I lose to a Mexican. And then the Leo Santa Cruz fans, they'll come out and they'll defend him after he says this. Does that make any sense? And listen, once again, man, there is nothing wrong with you showing loyalty to whoever you want to show loyalty to. All I'm saying is, don't do something and then turn around and accuse someone else of doing something when your ass is doing it to the third power, because that makes you look like a damn hypocrite. Before I end this video, let me share another story with you guys. So I was talking to one of the best trainers today, Joel Diaz, a while ago, and he was telling me a story of how one of his associates wanted to bet him that Juan Marquez would beat his fighter, Tim Bradley. So Joel Diaz, he jumped all over this. He said, okay, cool, let's bet, right? So of course, Joel Diaz, he wins the bet. And after Tim Bradley beats Juan Marquez, Joel Diaz's friend, he comes back over, he pays Joel Diaz the money. And after he pays him the money, he just shakes his head and he says to Joel Diaz, like, man, how could you pick a fighter over your own race? How could you do that, Joel? This is what he's asking Joel Diaz, right? And Joel Diaz was just trying to explain to this guy that Tim Bradley is like family to me. I've been knowing him since he was, a young boy, right? So, I mean, it's just crazy because this boxing fan who was betting on Juan Marquez just because they share the same race, he believed that Joel Diaz was supposed to do the same thing. He believed that Joel Diaz was supposed to be biased towards his own race, even if he does train this guy and Tim Bradley pays him and Tim Bradley has basically helped Joel Diaz change his whole life, right? Forget all of that. You are supposed to be biased towards your own race by default. That's what this boxing fan was telling Joel Diaz. Listen, I can separate my emotions from talking boxing, okay? I can separate my heart from my brain when it comes to talking boxing. Perfect example. When Curtis Stevens was about to fight Gennady Golovkin, I was pulling for Curtis Stevens because he's American and I could relate to him more, right? But when I did my prediction video, I picked Golovkin to win the fight because I wasn't basing my prediction on my personal feelings. I was basing my prediction on nothing but boxing. All right? When Zab Judah fought against Danny Garcia, I was pulling for Zab Judah because I remember Zab Judah and Floyd Mayweather coming up in the rankings when they were, very young in the game, with probably only like about 6 or 7 fights coming up as just undefeated American prospects. They both looked like they were going to be the future of boxing. And in some ways, they both were, right? So because I've known Zab Judah for so long in the game, I was pulling for Zab Judah. But guess who I picked when I did my prediction video? And by the way, all of these prediction videos are still up. You could go back and watch them, okay? I picked Danny Garcia to win the fight. Once again, separating emotions from the game. All right? So if you were to ask me the question, are you biased towards Floyd Mayweather? Of course I'm biased towards Floyd Mayweather. What kind of stupid ass question is that? Once again, I'm all American, right? I'm a black American. Floyd Mayweather is all American, a black American. And he happens to be dominating the sport of boxing. Why wouldn't I be biased towards him? Right? But at the same time, I'm not going to tell you some ridiculous shit just because I'm biased towards my own countrymen. Like I said, keep in mind, once again, Zab Judah versus Danny Garcia. Gennady Golovkin versus Curtis Stevens. You can like someone, you can root for someone, but you still should be able to separate your personal feelings from common sense. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.